Hello, good afternoon, everyone. This is quite funny because they are quite used to me now. And then I will say, not good enough, and then everyone say, good afternoon, louder. Okay, can we try again? Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, very good, thank you. Thank you for your support. Those people outside, if you would like to join the session, you can come in. Anyway, okay, all right. So, as you would know, for those people who have attended the last two sessions, for 5 Saturdays, starting 2 Saturdays ago, so this is the third Saturday, we actually have a special segment from 4:15 to 5 o'clock, where we will invite, and we have invited, monks and nuns to give a special talk in honor of Ajahn Brahm, because Ajahn Brahm will be celebrating his 50th anniversary as a monk on the 5th of December. So in honor of his so-called achievements, we thought it would be a good idea to get the monks and nuns to come here to actually share what were some of their experiences with him, particularly with someone like Venerable Nibbuto, who is from Bodhiyana Monastery. And so maybe he'll have more interesting stories to tell us. So with that, let me hand over the mic to Venerable Nibbuto, and thanks for doing this session. Thank you.
Okay. So probably I'm going to reveal all the secrets of Ajahn Brahm.
Yes. And do you want to tell us the title of the talk and why you picked that title?
Well, they asked me for the topic. I was like, oh, that's hard to figure out. I was thinking and thinking for a few days. I was like, what could be? And I was like, flowers and thorns, yeah? Yeah, very applicable, right? So I'll probably kind of like try to incorporate what it means, right? Because the flowers are kind of like easy to see, right? Right? It's the kind of like the beauty, right? And the fragrance of flowers, right? And we can kind of see it in Ajahn Brahm, right? But first of all, it's like, how you can sort of like, describe somebody, right? To describe somebody, you kind of need to you need to sort of like need to understand them fully, right? But how can you understand somebody like Ajahn Brahm very fully, right? Right? Unless you have like psychic powers and you can read their mind, right? What they are, right? Right? So you can't really, yeah? Vast majority of the people in the world can't, right? But we can see Ajahn Brahm through his actions, yeah? Through his teachings, yeah? Through kind of like his life he has lived on, yeah? He's been here since the early 80s, yeah? Yeah. And I've been living here in Bodhiyana. This is my 11th year in Bodhiyana, and I was kind of like almost every day close in contact with him. I do sort of like secretary work for mostly for Bodhiyana and for him. Yeah, it's amazing to see a kind of like, sort of amazing privilege to be able to come in contact with him, right? I didn't have really any intention to ordain here in Perth initially. I started kind of my Buddhist journey through Vipassana meditation. And I used to think, oh, probably I'll ordain in Burma. That's what I used to think, right, one day. And then I was at the meditation center. They said, like, oh, you should check out Ajahn Brahm. He's a very clever monk, right? So then I looked up, Buddhist society, and I came here in Lamara. And I think I mentioned this before. I wasn't really impressed with him at first. I listened to his talk, and I was like, yeah, Yeah, it's all right. Because you're so used to the kind of like a hardcore Buddhist philosophy, right? Dependent origination, right? That's what Vipassana, that's what they talk about, right? But he was talking about his kind of like own life in a way, right? How he sees the world, right? Which is actually very practical for lay people, even meditators. Meditators mostly make this mistake, because their approach to meditation and Buddhist practice is wrong, right? You become too hardcore. People get into too much into the theory and Abhidhamma. You hear from traditional Buddhist people, right? They go into this sutta and that sutta, like a Abhidhamma, right? Yeah. But it's just how you live your life, how you treat other people. Yeah. And this is kind of like later on I saw, this is what Ajahn Brahm is, right? This is how his talks come out, right? He kind of like doesn't prepare talks, right? He'll sit at Bodhiana, he gives talks to monks on Wednesdays, and he kind of like starts up the talks. So I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but here you go. Then you go, Namo Tassa, then, Dhamma comes out. Yeah. And he actually said to me once, we can see it like many years back, he said, I have this amazing gift of giving Dhamma talks. Yeah. Which is actually probably powerful than any psychic power one can have, right? I have come across monks who have like these amazing psychic powers of reading mind, right? You come in their contact, they know you, know your life, right? They probably know your previous lives as well, right? Your tendencies, yeah. Yeah, and they talk to you, and many people kind of get, when they come in contact, they get surprised, like, how does this monk knows that, right? I haven't seen that, this mind reading ability with Ajahn Brahm, right? Many people believe that. I haven't experienced that. Yeah, but he has much more, power than that, right? Explaining the Dhamma, right? Inspiring people, right? So they can practice their own, right? So they can be an island to themselves, right? This is what Buddha's last advice was to the monks and the Buddhist community, right? Being an island to yourself. Yeah. Yeah. And many of the monks, right? They cannot sort of talk about Dhamma in a way which kind of like pulls people in, right? It can be very bland. They just talk about, the Noble Eightfold Path, Four Noble Truths, right? And many traditional people love it. But since kind of world is becoming so modern, right? And it's hard to pull especially younger people in, right? Usually people try to sort of come into Buddhist practice, when they start to go through difficult times, or they have just incredible, Dhamma practice from previous life. Yeah? And usually people don't come. Right? And Ajahn Brahm has this amazing gift. Yeah? I remember when I went to Ajahn Ganha, he kind of said oh, please pass this message to Ajahn Brahm. He's like, please look after your health. Be careful what you eat. Right? Right? And so you are very important monk. Please tell him that, because you have responsibility of inspiring so many people across the world. Yeah? Because actually, I think many people take it granted that like how lucky we are, right, to be in his presence. Right? Even though I kind of like I'm in contact with him, but I kind of like never really have asked for a personal interview with him, right? Because you don't really need in the last 5-6 years or so, never, right? Probably sometimes, people think, oh, you're in contact with Ajahn Brahm, you'll be getting some secret teachings. Yeah? No, there are no secret teachings. Yeah? Dhamma is laid there for everyone. Yeah? So he kind of goes, and we kind of just absorb all his teachings through osmosis, right? His presence alone is very powerful, right? When he's sitting up the top and we're just sitting there up, where the monks sit, And there's a different energy, there is a different atmosphere, even though it's just sitting quietly, not saying anything, Yeah. It's very different compared to other monks. Yeah. Yeah. So we shouldn't take this sort of like for granted. Yeah? We should sort of like, put those teachings in practice. Yeah? Obviously, if you have this amazing kind of like, you can say patience or this ability to reflect, you can also inspire yourself. Yeah? There are whole nikayas there, right? Right? You don't need much. Yeah? But we have Ajahn Brahm, who's kind of like still alive and well, even though he's kind of like overweight, and I've joked to him a few times. I was like, Ajahn, we should probably cut your sausages and condensed milk, But he did cut his condensed milk down a little bit. Before he used to have he would have 3 times tea with like probably 1/5 or 1/4 of that tin, 3 times a day, right? One at breakfast time, one would be like, 9 o'clock when he used to be in the office, right? And one would be straight after lunch, right? Now he only has it once, right? Then I would tease him as like, oh, that's not proper English tea, Ajahn, putting so much condensed milk. Because he got conditioned in Thailand, right? So, and but I think the other food, he doesn't eat much because he's kind of like, I think the age as well, and he's not working hard as he used to be, like physical work, So, but I kind of like, we tease him sometimes, but I don't do that anymore. But the other thing we kind of like, we can take inspiration about Ajahn Brahm, that, it's kind of like so special in a way, right? That he kind of like born in London, right? There's nobody Buddhist around him, right? I asked him the other day, and he said like, I somehow believed there was a rebirth. I don't know. He's like, I just believed inside, right? Then he read this kind of Buddhist book, and he said, yeah, I'm a Buddhist. Yeah. And he started going into deep meditation very early on. Yeah. And he doesn't tell, he also said like, yeah, I was a monk in a previous life. That's all he said. I kind of tried to tease him as like, was it Thailand, right? Then he said like, no, I'll keep quiet. Okay, no more. Yeah. But you can see like the flow, of the spiritual practice, kind of like, automatically pulling you to kind of a monastic life. Yeah. And I remember, I'm not sure if you ever read this book. It's a very old book. It's called Seeing the Way. There were these, you can say, these little interviews from monks from Wat Pah Nanachat from the 80s or early 90s. And Ajahn Brahm was kind of saying, when he was, he had an idea that, like, he'll go to Thailand, and within 2 years he'll get enlightened and he'll come back, right? Usually he kind of says this story, right? But there are other thing to us. He's like, afterwards I had plans. I wanted to get married and live in a commune in Wales. He said, like, I already had made inquiries from the communes. Yeah. But he kind of like experienced the kind of like the same old defilements like everybody else, right? He had lust, right? He had anger, yeah? And I'm not sure if I don't think he tells this story. I remember from like these very old talks, where he was like, young monk, and he was like trying the practice so hard, right? Like suppressing it. And he was like, they said they went to a funeral in a village, and where they used to have these dancing girls, these different traditions, right? So all these dancing girls. And he's like, I kind of like, I was like keeping my restraint. I wasn't looking anywhere, right? Holding on. So he was sat through the entire funeral, right? So they had their celebrations, the monks like, usually just keep their eyes like this, like onto the floor. And he said, then on the way out, he just had a one look at the girls. And that night, he had a naughty dream, right? Yeah. So this is just a normal human kind of defilements, right? Yeah. So he was in, you can say, even though he's very special, right? Even Buddha experienced all those things, yeah. Yeah. And Ajahn Chah, if you read Ajahn Chah was even more explicit than that. In his biography, and he was, I think a layman was writing his biography, and Ajahn Chah kind of like, he's like, when the layman objected, he was like, oh, Bhante, Ajahn is like, this is kind of like, probably traditional Buddhists wouldn't like this, right? This is so much kind of like full on. He's like, this is going in, otherwise the whole project is off, right? No biography, right? What does it telling you? It's teaching us, right? Not to suppress things, right? Rather than to understand, right? What is lust anyways? Well, it's part of greed, right? It's the extension of our sense of self. Yeah, I want these pleasant sensations. Yeah, based on whatever you like, right? That's what lust is. Yeah. And he also got angry as well. He. I think he tells this story here, maybe, I don't know. I haven't listened to the Dhammaloka talks for a long time. I think he was a few years as a monk, maybe 2-3 years. And he washed, he actually wiped this spittoon, where they kind of like, the monks kind of maybe sometimes like, put their rubbish and other stuff in this little kind of like spittoon. And in Thailand, they're very particular what cloth to use to kind of like, wipe what things, right? And I think I remember in one monastery, they even had a special cloth for Buddha's bottom, right? So they had a different kind of cloth for a different part of the statue, right? So this monk, he kind of like sees Ajahn Brahm, using his wiping cloth, which he used for his bowl to wash the spittoon. Then he comes to Ajahn Brahm, and he said like, "Oh, that's a filthy habit," right? And he said like immediately, the anger came up inside me, right? So he was like, "Oh, then I use restraint," right? And he said, "Okay, yeah, it's fine. You just kind of like swallow it, right?" Then he said like, "No, use that kind of cloth or something." Then he just followed the instructions what the senior monk said. Right? And everybody was like, when that monk shouted, and everybody was like quiet, right? Because usually you don't see this kind of behavior from monks, This kind of it sticks out. So he kind of like, I swallowed the pride and followed what was kind of like, see kind of like, lessening the ego. And then he's like, after that monk never shouted at me. He shouted at other monks, right? If he responded, right, things could get worse, right? So because he wasn't buying into it. Right? So these are the kind of like examples, and his teachings, are such a valuable gift to us. And what I meant by thorns, right? So these are the flowers. The other thing about flowers is actually a really nice verse from the Mapada. It's like, the smell of the flowers, right? It cannot go against the wind, but the fragrance of the Dhamma, right, of the enlightened beings, it spreads against the wind, right? And so what I meant by thorns was our expectations. Our expectations about Ajahn Brahm, right? What we, like to see him as, right? People sometimes have a very unrealistic, expectations of senior monks who have, right, really good samadhi or really good teachers, right? Being an abbot and looking after so many people. So these are the thorns, right? Not in Ajahn Brahm, right? But in our mind, in our perceptions, right? And that's how you get upset. And I've seen sometimes people getting angry at Ajahn Brahm. It's not uncommon. It's not uncommon in spiritual kind of circles for disciples to get angry at senior monks. But the thing we need to understand, right, getting enlightened, right, is only one particular area, right? Ajahn Brahm cannot be good at all the things. He can't be a really, really good manager. Or really, really good abbot, right? No, he can't. It's our duty, to reflect. Because he's not responsible for our spiritual practice, we own our. So whenever kind of like any problem arise, we should look inside rather than we looking somebody to blame. Yeah. Usually that is the case. Yeah. We always kind of like, look outside to blame somebody, which Ajahn Brahm calls it fault-finding mind. Yeah. But it's kind of like, you can say it's a very common psychology, right? We kind of like assume that like, somebody would be like really great, right? Almost like a god. Why people have concept of God in different traditions, right? Of a guru, where you surrender, yeah, where those people get abused and stuff. We want that comfort and security that, hey, this person, he's just going to look after us for the rest of our life, yeah. But that's not the teachings of the Buddha. Yeah. Yeah. And I think being a monk, I can say that it's rare to find a monk or a nun, right, who has this incredible good meditation, right, and who has a really good understanding of Buddhist scriptures, and be able to give these amazing talks. You don't find this combination. On top of that, we want him to be a really good abbot and a manager. No, he can't be all those things. Yeah. Yeah. Usually, many kind of like monks are, because it's very easy, scholarly. Right? They talk about suttas and stuff. It's very easy to do, right? Buddha has laid out, all you need to do is learn Pali and you just kind of like analyze, use your mind and your thinking, yeah? Yeah. Although it's a gift, yeah? But that's not what Buddha kind of like asked us to kind of practice. Yeah? That's why sometimes it's good to travel to kind of like, other Buddhist kind of like, countries and kind of like monasteries out in Asia and explore, right? See. Then you can appreciate. I've seen it in kind of like many other kind of like monastics and stuff, they try and try, then they realize, oh, I had it here all along, right? Yeah. This was also kind of like advice of Ajahn Man to Ajahn Chah. He said like the teachings are so extensive, right? The Dhamma is so extensive, right? There's so many scriptures and stuff explained in different ways. Yeah. But they're very simple. Yeah? All you need to kind of like see, observe is your mind. If you are mindful what's happening inside you, right? That's very easy. But we don't. Our mind like to proliferate. Yeah? So, and Ajahn Brahm, I'm not sure how many times I'm going to repeat, Yeah. It's our very good fortune, very good fortune. Yeah. So if you have any questions, actually, please feel free to ask. Yeah, there's one over here. Just a second, the mic, please. Yeah.
I just want to ask about your experience, firstly learning Vipassana, and then obviously with Ajahn Brahms it's more Samadhi practice.
Yeah.
How that transition experience was for you?
Yeah, very good question actually. Because I was kind of like, talking about dependent origination, right? That's actually kind of like very kind of, to me, was like aha moment, when I came across that, right? Because growing up in India, I kind of like, I've seen cases of rebirth, right? You hear it all about it. But you hear many different explanations. Oh, there's this God responsible, so many doctrines, you kind of get confused, like the Kalamas, right? And when you hear dependent origination, you kind of like, it's you who's responsible, nobody else, right? So, but I then kind of like started looking into, right, more into kind of like their background and stuff, right? And was looking into Abhidhamma and stuff, right? And they all didn't make sense to me, like this whole Vipassana, right? How you can get inside without having deep samadhi, right? And then I bought the suttas, right? The Nikayas. I started reading the Nikayas. This was before coming here, right? Which was really powerful to me. And those days, those were the only books I was reading, just the Nikayas. And I came across Ajahn Brahm, right? Then after a few years, right? Then I heard, he's talking about jhanas, right? And I heard in suttas, I was like, wow, right? Because you don't hear in that Ascent Goenka Vipassana tradition, talking about jhanas, right? And also the whole method was so mechanical, right? You're kind of like scanning your body and you're moving all the time. I actually, after some months, I just quit that body scanning. I just used to sit in present, doing nothing. And that was more powerful. So I was just already kind of like naturally was gravitating in that direction. Then I heard Ajahn Brahm, you do the present moment. I was like, present moment, jhanas, this all making sense. And then I kind of like started to kind of like hear his teachings more. I used to go to Bodhiana monastery to take food for the monks on my off day. Then somebody gave me the Wednesday night talks. And then I was like, these are good. Because his talks here are kind of much more diluted. So, and you can say like the heavy, a little bit of hardcore Dhamma was given, especially in the 90s or even like, early 2000. Even now, there's a kind of like a big difference. So if you want to listen to those talks, come and stay at the monastery. We also need some female guest in summer. And so it kind of like all made sense to me, Especially somebody who's talking about jhanas, not the kind of diluted jhanas, because people kind of like, talk about they're still in the body, they haven't let go of the body and they experience piti, sukha and the nimitta, then they say jhanas, right? Yeah. But the standard of Ajahn Brahm was very high, it kind of made sense. And what I heard previously. So that was it. Any more questions? No? If there are any online questions, you can please bring it out. What your experience has been with Ajahn Brahm? Anybody on the floor? Want to share? What about you, Jeff? You've been here quite a while. Yeah, you just absorb.
No, just said it.
Oh, okay. So, if there is a reincarnation, there should be a chance to meet our loved ones and continue with them. What can we do for that from Germany? Ah, do nothing. You'll just probably get reborn with them. You probably wouldn't know, but somehow your paths will cross. You know? And actually Buddha says that, he's like, it's hard to find a being, right, in this samsara who hasn't been your family member, your relative, yeah? Your friend. Yeah? So many lives you have lived. Yeah? So probably the family members you have, probably you have already crossed paths with them before. Yeah? Yeah? It's usually kind of like an attachment brings people close. Yeah? Sometimes you may not be kind of close with your family members, but somehow you kind of like close with some friend you come across. Yeah? I actually remember this. It's our neighbor, close to where my parents live. And this man, he never really got on with his father, right? But he kind of like, he had really close connection with his daughter-in-law, right? And his I think he passed away. The father passed away. Then the daughter-in-law was pregnant, right? This guy's wife. And she had a dream, I think maybe before she got pregnant, or I don't know when. She had a dream. And the father-in-law came to her, he's like, oh, my daughter, I'm not going anywhere, right? Okay? I'm coming as your son, right? And guess what? He said, then he kind of like, he had a son. He said like, now, right, he's kind of like a teenager now, probably in his early 20s. He's like, I never really get along with him, right? He has the similar traits as my father. Yeah. It's really strange. And another actually weird, it's our family friend. So she had 2 sons, and before she had 2 sons, she had a daughter. She passed away. She was like quite young, and she was like quite sickly, and she passed away. And after she died, she came into her dream, and she said, oh, I'm going to this region of India, like north. Yeah? It's called Jammu and Kashmir. Right? And then their son came here to Australia. Right? And guess who he met? Right? He met this girl from Jammu and Kashmir. It's weird, right? And this daughter-in-law has this really kind of like really strong connection with the daughter-in-law. you kind of like almost feel this pull you cannot describe in words. So all these kind of like, things kind of like happen. There's another story which, since we are on to, just coming to my mind. This was in my village actually. I grew up in a village until I was 13. Then we moved to town. This was in the 90s, and so this man, he was like a farmer in his early 20s or something, and he came on a tractor to our village in this street. And people sometimes, like Jews, they're farming a tractor as a kind of mode of transport as well, because the villages were quite close. And so he came to the house, and he said to them, he's like, I'm your old man, from previous life. He told, like, I'm, my name is this and this. They were surprised. Oh, that Jews were grandfather, right? And he kind of like, told them their name, what their names were, and the things like which nobody else would know, right? Then he said to them, like, he took them to a certain place in the house, right? He said, like, dig here, right? So they dug. And when they dug, they what they found was like his old gold and like, silver jewelry, all that kind of like, things he hid in his previous life. And he like, it's for you. I kind of like, wanted to give you. I couldn't tell you before I pass away. Yeah. So.
Same name.
Oh, that's okay. Another one. So this is my father's auntie. Yeah, wasn't my village, in different village. My father's auntie. So she died, and kind of like in the morning, then they kind of like, told the relatives, right? This is also in the 90s as well. And so the family started coming. Then they don't keep the body for long. They usually, like, if people die in the morning, they bury, like, do the cremation in the evening or the next day, right? So then after like some hours, maybe like 7-8 hours or something, right? She woke up, right? She was dead. Then everybody was like, what happened? She woke up. And then she kind of like described, they said like, she was taken by these two spirits in front of another spirit. And this another spirit kind of like said to them, is like, oh, you brought the wrong woman, right? Take her back. So they kind of like took her back. Then there was another woman with the same name, same first name. So because of maybe I think the spirits got confused, because Sikhs usually have use the same name, right? Last name. Singh, women use Kaur, right? So the spirits got confused, right? Then another woman with the same name died that evening. Yeah. That was the kind of like the strangest thing. Yeah. So, I'm not sure. Yeah, that's the only question there. Is there another question? Oh, there is. Okay, Eddie. Oh, sorry, there are 4 of them.
Oh.
Okay, just a sec, Eddie. Let me go through these ones. Okay. Bhante, how can we support loved ones through our practice when they are about to pass away? By metta or forgiveness? I get confused between during tough times. Both, right? First do forgiveness, right? So they don't hold anything in their heart, so they don't feel guilty, your loved ones, and you don't, right? And that's also a metta as well. When you forgive, it's kind of a metta. Yeah? Then you wish them well. Yeah? So that is the kind of like the simplest answer. Apart from that, you can't do much. Right? Their karma would just take them, wherever they, need to go. Is there an easy way to stop inner dialogue during meditation, also in daily life? Thank you. Yeah. Press that button. It's called off switch. There is no off switch, right? We just need to be mindful, right? Before you sit, you can say, I'm not going to think. Right? If you're tired, your mind going to be restless. Right? So do not force, allow the natural flow. Right? That's Ajahn Brahm's teachings are about, right? He doesn't force. Yeah? He doesn't force other monks, right? He doesn't force meditation, right? His meditation method has changed, right? From the kind of 90s to nowadays. Yeah. First he kind of used to say, you do sitting meditation, then you go to walking meditation, then you go sitting meditation, then you go to walking meditation, you kind of do this. Yeah. Nowadays he doesn't. Yeah. You don't force. You observe what's going in, right? In your daily life, right? Try to catch, right? If you are too busy, take deep breaths in. Have intervals. Yeah? When you are on the toilet, that is the best time. Just observe. Yeah. And don't force. It has other benefits too. Yeah. So keep it natural. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Oops. So the inner dialogue, the other way to counter that is have a good meditation object, right? Breath, or body or metta. Yeah? When you start to have pleasure in meditation, right, mind would kind of start to think, lessen its thinking, right? Because now it's focused on something else. Yeah? So naturally your inner dialogue would get less. And also try to condition yourself in a daily life not to kind of give commentary on everything. Yeah, that's our usual habit patterns are. Right? Even people are driving and they go oh look, this is happening, right? This is happening, right? Yeah. Oh that, No need to give descriptions. Yeah. Yeah. People just make kind of these useless commentary. Yeah. And Ajahn Brahm doesn't do that. This is kind of thing I have found it with Ajahn Brahm, right? So with evening drinks, monks would kind of we come together sometimes, and sit. If there's nothing to say, nobody has any kind of thing to say, he'll just sit quietly. Yeah. And it's kind of his way of teaching. It's just silence. How can we best show our gratitude to Ajahn Brahm? Oh, I think he has said it many times. practice. Yeah. And the other thing I actually wanted to say was, right, with Ajahn Brahm as well, we should lower our expectations. Yeah. Yeah. So that is the best way you can pay our gratitude and homage to the Buddha, to Ajahn Brahm, and the teachers before that. Yeah. Yeah. Through practice. Yeah. Yeah. And other people who gonna come across, right? They'll also kind of like see those positive effects on you. Yeah, they would automatically get influenced. So that is the best way. So Eddie,
Are you Ajahn now 11 years or what? Oh,
pardon?
are you Ajahn now 11 years?
Nola,
Huh? I thought after 10 years it's Ajahn, isn't it?
huh?
After 10 years it's Ajahn.
No, you don't become an Ajahn after 10 years. You become Ajahn if you are a really good teacher.
Oh, so anyway you're an Ajahn.
Years are not.
Ajahn
Eddie.
Nibbuto. Okay?
Right?
Yeah, Ajahn.
So how you become a professor,
Oh.
right? If you are really good at something, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say something, okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was stated
Yeah.
in the scriptures, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. It was stated in the scriptures.
Not,
oh.
yeah, they call them theras, right? Yeah. Bhante Sujato doesn't like that phrase. It's like, you know, even though he's a good teacher, right? Very good scholarly monk, right? But he prefers Bhante, very traditional. Or like Bhikkhu Bodhi. Nobody calls the Ajahn Bodhi, right? It's Bhikkhu Bodhi, it's more simple. Yeah. And that is the best. I didn't want to choose, when I made my email, I was like, I wanted to make Bhikkhu Nibbuto, right? Then when I looked at it, I was like, looks like Bhikkhuni Bhutto. So I made it with the monk Nibbuto. So,
Okay.
all right. Is there any other comments, questions?
No, I just want to say something I haven't said yet. Can I say?
Yeah, sure lah.
Oh, yeah. It was stated in the scriptures, you know,
Yeah.
that the Buddha, he was full of humor, you know. He was easily approachable, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And selfless, you know, okay?
Yeah.
So I compare this to like Ajahn Brahm's, how to say, character, okay?
Yeah.
Ajahn Brahm is selfless, always giving, you know.
Yeah.
And it's got a lot of humor, you know. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So these people, they are able to draw crowds in, you know.
Yeah.
Crowds. Okay? You see what I mean? Yeah. So the other thing I want to say on the Ajahn Brahm is, earlier in his teaching, you know, you find that his teaching is very simple, you know. Just simple, this thing.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. So then we are asked, I come to understand the thing is, he's simple because he's giving a talk to the public, you know, okay?
Yeah.
If he gives too deep talk, this thing, people won't understand.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, yeah. Just one, I think, okay. But the thing is, he can be very deep. If you look at his books, you know, and you go to his retreats, he can be very deep if he can, okay?
Yeah.
But lately, the last, I would say maybe 2 years, you know, you notice he's changed his style of teaching to be very deep, you know. So maybe I was thinking he realized that the crowd who comes here now to his teaching, they understand already, you know. So he can be very deep. The thing his teachings are deep.
Yeah, but of course, I think it's also good to, from maybe time to time, give deep teachings, maybe just to shake people up.
Maybe
Right.
I think the crowd is quite ready
Right.
now because over the years of this teaching, they've already absorbed by all the things.
Yeah.
You know, the general public here, they know a lot now here.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Eddie. All right. Lehar.
Thank you, Bhante, for being here. So, to end this all, can we give Bhante 3 loud sadhus? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Very good.
Thank you, Bhante
Very
Nibbuto.
good. Very good.
I like the one that you say, what? Bhikkhu Nibbuto. That's a really good one.
Very good. All right, let's pay respect to Buddha Dhamma Sangha.